What if a forgotten land suddenly held the key to Africa's freedom? Burkina Faso, a nation long seen as powerless, now sits on a treasure that could change the world map. This is the story of Captain Ibrahim Traoré.
I am Ibrahim Traoré, and today I'm pulling off your masks.
The soldier who rose from the desert sands to challenge global powers and discovered what no one expected beneath his feet. A story of hidden wealth, betrayal, and the fight for true independence. For decades, Burkina Faso was labeled one of the poorest nations on earth. The land was dry, the people resilient but weary of endless struggle. But deep below the cracked earth lay rivers of black gold, oil reserves so vast they could shift the balance of power in West Africa. In 2024, whispers began to spread. Traoré's government had found signs of immense oil reserves in the Sahel region. But announcing it to the world, that could mean war. Western interests had long controlled the resources of Africa, from gold to cocoa to uranium. But oil was different. It was power. Burkina Faso must not become another colony. This wealth is for our people, not foreign masters. But then, the leaks began. Suddenly, diplomats arrived uninvited. Offers poured in, and threats followed. However, that day something unexpected happened. Traoré refused to bow. At that moment, a voice was heard, not from the West, but from the people of Burkina Faso. The streets roared with hope and fear. Traoré stood firm, announcing a national oil company, vowing no foreign firm would take a drop without fair terms. And with one speech, he shook the foundations of Western control over Africa. Today, the battle for Burkina's oil is just beginning. Traoré's bold discovery has set the stage for a new chapter in Africa's fight for self-reliance. But will the world let this dream survive? Or will history repeat itself? But as the sun rose over Ouagadougou, the world began to take notice. News outlets across Europe and America debated, was Burkina Faso's discovery real or just a desperate claim for attention? Behind closed doors, meetings intensified. Powerful corporations drew up plans to negotiate or to seize. Yet inside Burkina, hope burned brighter than fear. Traoré's government launched the first surveys of the fields, confirming what many had doubted. The oil was there, and it was theirs. In villages once forgotten, children dreamed of schools. Farmers imagined clean water. Mothers spoke of hospitals no longer empty. But with every passing day, the pressure grew. Foreign agents worked in the shadows, trying to sow doubt among Traoré's allies. Fake reports spread, claiming the reserves were exaggerated, that Traoré was lying, that civil war would follow. Still, he stood tall, his voice echoing in every speech. Our land, our future. And then came the ultimatum. A letter, unsigned, delivered through back channels. It offered riches beyond measure, in exchange for control of the oil. And it carried a warning: refuse and face the consequences. But Traoré did not hesitate. He tore the letter apart, piece by piece, in front of his closest advisors. He chose his people over profit, his nation's dignity over the easy path. The world held its breath, waiting to see what would come next. And what came next shocked even the most seasoned observers. As international envoys packed their bags and flew home empty-handed, the streets of Burkina filled with voices, not of fear, but of defiance. From the dusty towns of the Sahel to the capital's crowded markets, one message echoed: we will not be bought. Meanwhile, Traoré reached out beyond Africa's usual partners. He spoke with leaders in the global south, nations once trapped under the same yoke of control. Talks began for a new alliance, a shared vision of resource sovereignty where wealth would no longer flow outwards but lift entire populations. But those who had long profited from Africa's silence were not prepared to let go. Strange incidents began to plague the oil sites. Equipment failed without explanation. Fires erupted in the night. Whispers of sabotage spread like wildfire. Still, Traoré pressed on. He ordered new security measures, deployed trusted guards to the fields, and called upon the people themselves to protect what was theirs. Men and women stood watch, day and night, guarding the land that now promised them a different future. And as oil began to flow, in controlled, small quantities, the question grew louder across the world. Could Burkina Faso really break the chains that had bound it for generations? But with every bold word, the risks grew sharper. Strange power outages struck key parts of the capital. Banks reported mysterious cyber attacks, freezing transactions and delaying wages. Markets wavered as uncertainty spread, and yet the people endured. Traoré's message rang louder than the fear. Our struggle is not for today, but for tomorrow. He called on neighboring nations to stand with Burkina Faso, to form a shield against the pressures closing in. Some answered. Mali, Niger, and others pledged support, offering trade routes, military cooperation, and solidarity. Meanwhile, foreign media painted conflicting pictures. Some hailed Traoré as a hero, a visionary leader carving a new path. Others called him reckless, a gambler risking his nation's fragile stability. But inside Burkina Faso, a quiet revolution was already underway. Local engineers worked day and night to build refineries. New schools opened near the oil regions, funded by the first trickle of revenue. Farmers received tools, seeds, and clean water systems, paid for not by foreign donors, but by their own land's wealth. And as dawn broke each day over the oil fields, the same question lingered in the morning air. Could this small nation truly defy the giants of the world and chart its own destiny? And so, the struggle deepened. As Traoré's vision gained ground at home, shadows gathered beyond his borders. International corporations, once silent, began to flex their influence. Some offered lucrative contracts disguised as partnerships, promising technology, expertise, and markets, but always with hidden strings attached. Others worked through back channels, attempting to turn Traoré's own allies against him. Yet each time, he stood firm. His reply was simple. Burkina's oil would serve the people of Burkina Faso first. In the dusty villages that dotted the land, hope began to bloom where despair once lived. Communities that had long been neglected saw change arrive in small, steady waves. New wells brought clean water to the thirsty. Clinics opened in places where none had existed before. Children gathered in newly built classrooms, their futures no longer shackled to poverty alone. Still, pressure mounted. Foreign media amplified stories of instability, warning of economic collapse and internal unrest. Speculation shook Burkina's currency, causing prices to rise and frustration to grow. But even in hardship, the people remembered Traoré's promise that the black gold beneath their feet belonged to them. Night after night, under the wide Sahel sky, ordinary citizens kept watch over oil facilities. Men with little more than flashlights and determination guarded the pumps and pipes that represented their future. Elders reminded the young of the old struggles, of colonial chains, of promises broken by outsiders. This time, they vowed, would be different. Across Africa, Burkina's story stirred the hearts of millions. From Ghana to Sudan, from Nigeria to Tanzania, people whispered the name of Traoré as a symbol of what could be. Leaders faced growing calls from their own citizens to reclaim their resources, to break the contracts of old, to stand tall as free nations. And the giants of industry, seated in glass towers far from the desert, grew uneasy. Every barrel of oil that flowed from Burkina's land without their control felt like a challenge. They feared what might come next, that Burkina's stand could spark a wildfire across the continent, ending centuries of quiet domination. Traoré understood the stakes. In his private chambers, he spent long nights with maps and reports, planning how to protect the fragile gains his people had made. He met with engineers, farmers, teachers, and soldiers, not to command, but to listen. Together, they charted a course that would not rely on old powers, but build new alliances, new systems, new strength from within. But danger was never far. Sabotage attempts grew bolder. One night, a massive fire broke out at a key storage site, sending thick black smoke into the sky. Volunteers and emergency crews worked side by side, risking their lives to contain the flames. And when the smoke cleared, they rebuilt. Stronger, smarter, more determined than ever. Burkina Faso's fight is far from over. The world is watching, but the future will be written by its people. If this story inspired you, like the video, share it, and subscribe for more untold truths.